Tonight, President Trump lashing out after the New York Times produced a detailed, data-driven report and talking about how he may be showing some signs of aging. In that report, the Times writes, Mr. Trump has fewer public events on his schedule and is traveling domestically much less than he did by this point during his first year in office, noting that he also keeps a shorter public schedule than he used to, and that most of his public appearances fall between noon and 5 p.m. on average. President Trump is 79. He responded by not only criticizing the report and defending his cognitive abilities, but also lashing out at one of the reporters, a woman who he called, quote, ugly inside and out. Now, there are two reporters on that byline. The president did not personally attack the male reporter. So I'm just curious what everybody made of the article.
Now the New York Times is saying, hey, we think this guy might be a little cuckoo. It's like, where were you in 2016? Even recently, they wouldn't even acknowledge Elon Musk's Nazi symbol. They called it a hand gesture. But I think we, the American people, have long seen, no, it wasn't. But I think the American people have long seen cognitive decline here. And look, I think we saw it with President Biden as well. Very different circumstances. Donald Trump routinely lies. When he was just on the global stage, he started talking randomly about windmills and killing birds. And have you ever read the transcripts of some of the speeches he's given?
It's almost like you don't appreciate that we're going to finally have Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker back.
I mean, I find it frightening. But if you look at the
Rush Hour 4 is the next segment.
See, so don't stop saying Trump doesn't make things happen for the economy.
There's a reason the White House took the transcripts down, because when you read them, they are nonsensical and they are burying this. So I know everybody, it's, the day before Thanksgiving, everybody's joking, but this is the president of the United States who routinely lies, routinely insults journalists, is eroding our core democratic structures here, and there's just nothing funny about it. And I just think we have to raise the red flag every single time we see this happen, because a part of the reason why he's been able to do this is because a largely, I would argue sometimes feckless beltway media that treated this like it was normal instead of saying, whoa, this is a huge problem.
But I would argue that ridicule and humor are important weapons against him.
Yes, I agree, John. Very long cable footprint. Like, you can go back years and years. This is how the president has always talked. Right. And I think that, calling him out at this point on crazy things he says is not an effective strategy. People should be focusing more on the policies and picking them apart on the merits. Saying that Trump said something crazy or stupid or dishonest is a failing strategy.
He just called to murder senators this week.
This is more about stamina, right? So looking at that the schedule is different in his second term. That
he's traveling
shorter, that he's traveling less.
You said domestically he's traveling less. He's actually doing double the foreign trips in his first year in office than he did in 2016 and 2017.
Where was the outcry when Biden stopped traveling?
What Tiffany said is correct, though. Americans are familiar with decline because we saw decline on TV for 4 years. President Biden actually quit at 4 p.m. He only worked 30 hours a week. And they know that President Trump is not declining like him, because whereas Biden's staff had to give him pre-printed cue cards with Nancy Pelosi's name on it, pre-printed questions that they fed to reporters.
Do you have anything to say about Trump?
Trump can't stop lying, my friend.
They have pre-printed questions. This president, whether you like him or not, actually goes out there and talks to the press every single day. Every time he goes to the helicopter, he takes questions from the press. He does press conferences with the world leaders.
But I think the point is he's always sort of said...
He's always sounded like this. He's always been forthright with the press. You can see that he's not mentally declining.
Forthright with the press?
If you're coming out and boasting, if you're boasting that you passed a dementia test, that's a great way of telling the rest of us they made you take a dementia test.
Brian, you get the button.
In a situation where if my 6-year-old came home from school and called a girl ugly on the playground, he would get in trouble.
But they're held to a higher standard.
If he said, little piggy, he would get in trouble. And we're still in a situation where the 79-year-old president, trouble is even begin to express it, right? People laugh about it instead of taking it seriously.
And that is a problem, because that's a terrible precedent in this country, right? And I will say this as a woman who is raising 2 young men.
Yeah.
If I ever saw my boys use that language or not stand up for a woman when it was used in front of them, I would be questioning where I went wrong with them, because that's not the way to behave. That is separate from this, right, from the actual tone of the article. Right. But yes, it's an important point as well.